So Thanksgiving has come and gone, but let's be honest. I bet there are a few family conversations that you are still replaying in your head. They might have been very heartfelt, a beautiful moment, or maybe it was just a simply awkward conversations. Those exchanges we have hold valuable lessons. And today we're going to dive in how to transform holiday conversations, past and future, into powerful moments of connection. And of course, it's going to be backed by science and using ancient wisdom. Hello there, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another Mindful Monday. I am your host, your guide, Erica Sham, also known as Mindful Mistress. I am here to offer both of us unique perspectives that really help us grow personally, spiritually, professionally, emotionally, all the things, really helping to create space to allow us to enjoy every aspect of this journey while helping us break free of the mental prism of limitation. So let's get into it. We are talking about family gatherings, and they are a smorgasbord or kaleidoscope of emotions. One moment you could be laughing so hard that you're crying, and the very next moment you could be ready to fight, ready to throw down, throw some bows, get into it. The time with family can be such a triggering moment, although there are some very beautiful moments that we have, and the beauty of these moments, whether it is joyful or challenging, can really be the difference in how we perceive each moment and how we're able to reflect, learn, and grow. So mindful communication isn't a new idea. This is something that the ancient wisdom, whether it be from the Hermetica or Buddhist practice, indigenous storytelling, they all remind us about mindful communications. And the emphasis is really on the power of being present in the moment and intentional about the dialogue. So the modern science approach that we have now, we call it mindful communication, is really catching up, or what I like to say, modern science is actually now proving that the way that we communicate deeply impacts our relationships, our mental health, and even our biology. I know that's right. So today we are going to explore 3 timeless tools that really help us master this mindful communication: active listening, pausing before you respond, and setting intentions. Whether you're reflecting on this past Thanksgiving or you're preparing for future gatherings, I know I've got a holiday party coming up, so I'm definitely going to be practicing this before my holiday party, which is literally in a few days as we're in holiday season, right? It's really that these practices can help blend our ancient knowledge that we hold within with modern science and create these beautiful and meaningful connections. So the first tool that I want to talk about, and is very difficult, and although I know, at least for you, or at least for me, I will say that I learned this when I was younger, or allegedly learned this, but I don't know how well it was actually taught per se. I think it was more like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, but this is not what I do. If you know, you know. So active listening. And so from the science perspective, active listening, the neuroscience shows that truly listening to someone activates our brain's mirror neurons, which really help us empathize and connect with someone. So when you're actually listening to what they say, not listening to respond, but listening and sitting on each and every word, you're paying attention. With your body releases a hormone called oxytocin, which a lot of us are familiar with oxytocin, but I bet you didn't know that your body releases oxytocin when you were actually actively listening. I know some of us are thinking about a little more, a different activity that releases oxytocin, but when you're actually listening and fully present in a conversation, the oxytocin bonding hormone gets released from your body. So you start building more trust and creating that warmth of relationship. It makes me think of, I know I've heard this, and science also has backed it. Like when you first meet somebody, you can kind of tell how close um, how close you are to them by proximity. And just in conversation, people you can see them kind of naturally start getting closer and closer, so that bubble that some of us have that could be really huge, like, hey, I want you to stay 6 feet away from me, get super close, the more you get closer to someone. And that's because we've released more oxytocin with this particular person, allowing us to build the trust and bond with them better. Now, when we take this from the perspective of ancient wisdom, there are so many indigenous cultures that where listening is really considered an act of respect and community building. Some of you know that I practice Mame and Ambil, and during those ceremonies and even in modern day, the whole point is that we're sitting together in community and we are speaking from the heart and listening, and we're able to have those beautiful organized thoughts and really conveying what we want to say. And we're able to listen from a place of love and compassion as well. So there are some indigenous tribes that have sayings that mean that we're all related. And so by way of listening is how we honor that interconnectedness that each one of us has with those around us. So some ways that you can practice it is just tuning in, having that eye conversation with somebody, maybe slightly leaning in or towards whoever is talking, focusing on the speaker's words and emotions, not just the surface story. What are they not communicating verbally, but maybe they're communicating with their body language? And then when you respond with curiosity, taking in that child's mind approach, because we've never walked a mile in anyone's shoes. So taking away that assumption that you already know, right? So having that, again, that child's mind approach and coming from a place of curiosity, like, what was that like for you? How did you experience that? So this past Thanksgiving, I had the pleasure of being with my nieces and my dad and sister and brother-in-law. And we had these very beautiful, meaningful conversations. And actually, it was brought on by a game we played called Do You Know Your Family Members? And from there, we were able to kind of open the dialogue and open up space to share. So another thing I want to get into, the tool number 2 is a very essential tool, is pause before responding. Now, before you get on to me about this, just listen. So the science of listening, psychologists have actually found that taking a brief pause before you respond actually lowers your cortisol level. So that's the stress hormone. And it increases your ability to emotionally regulate. So regardless of whatever the topic is or the conversation, by you just taking a beat, literally, and then responding lowers that cortisol. And those of you, if we are eating for the holidays, we do not want to have a buildup of cortisol, which, that gets right here in the belly. But so just take a beat. Think about it as, hey, I am helping myself not gain the extra 10, 15, 5 pounds, whatever, during the holiday season by just taking a beat before I even respond to anyone. So this pause really helps the prefrontal cortex, our thinking and rational part, get online instead of letting your highly emotional brain, or what we like to call in the spiritual world, the lizard brain or the monkey brain, which is the emotional side, the one that when you get triggered, you go from 0 to 100 in a millisecond. So by taking a pause, it allows that prefrontal cortex to come online and help you craft whatever response that's necessary versus it being strictly emotional and you feeling like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? I'm going to end up regretting it or wanting to take some things back. Or you might just feel really naked and vulnerable from what might just come up for you and you're not ready to deal with that. So that's something else to think about. Oftentimes we might choose anger in the moment, but what it is that we're really hurt, and anger seems more of a powerful emotion instead of the vulnerability and the sadness that was actually caused by whatever action or something someone said. So when we think back to the ancient teachings of Buddha, this concept is called right speech. So it's the part of the Noble Eightfold Path that really emphasizes speaking in ways that are truthful, that are kind, and also beneficial. And pausing allows you to be able to align your words with your true values. So, some ways you can do this are getting grounded. I love, for me, grounding into my feet, maybe taking a nice deep breath and pausing and thinking thoughtfully before I respond. You can use the acronym thought, or I'm sorry, the acronym think. Think is T is true, H is helpful, I inspiring, N is necessary, and last, the K, think, is kind. So is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind before you even respond? Now, again, we know silence is also a response, saying, hey, you know what? I don't feel like this conversation is for me, is a response. But thinking of taking that breath, being mindful, and going with your values can really help you, again, have those meaningful conversations and build those connections, which is what we aim to do in the holiday season, although we know it doesn't always happen because there's so much history, right? There's so much past when we connect with loved ones, family members who've known us since we were eeny, meeny, teeny, maybe even not even a thought or a glimmer in our parents' eyes up until we're full-fledged adults. And unfortunately, not everybody understands that we are adults now, and they still think of us as maybe that little boy or girl back in the day who used to do X, Y, Z, and you've grown from that. We've evolved since then. We've evolved since last week. Hell, we're not the same person we used to be when we were younger. So a pro tip is that, silence isn't or doesn't always have to be awkward. It can be a very powerful statement, and really just giving space after someone has shared, especially if it's vulnerable, gives them space and encourage them to share more deeply and allow whatever that is, whatever they just spoke about, to kind of resonate within the atmosphere, to give everyone time to fully digest what was said, and then they could speak from there. So tool number 3 is setting intentions for the connection. Who are we going to dinner with, right? And what is the intention we look to have from this? Is it really just we're going to eat? Hey, if that's your intention and have a peaceful dinner, that's okay. If your intention is not to get in an argument with Auntie Mary, that's okay too. So research shows from positive psychology that setting an intention, not just before communication, but really before anything, can really just prime your brain to create this beautiful experience. And what it is, and I've talked about it before, is our RAS. It's our reticular activating system. And so it's what filters out things in our life, because there's so many stimuli, there's so much going on. Our brain has to filter certain things because there's only so much that we could focus on in a second, in a day, in a moment, in a particular activity. So by setting an intention, what you're doing is saying, hey, this is the lens in which I want to have during this experience. Let's prime it and let's go in and have this particular lens. So it makes you more aware of the opportunities that are in alignment with your own goals. So that means if you set an intention of connecting with a loved one, you'll naturally focus on actions and verbiage that supports you in that. If we pull from ancient wisdom or ancient yoga philosophy, the concept of sadhikala really refers to a heart intention or a vow that you create. So unlike a goal that really focuses on achieving something typically external and by a certain time, sankalpa, I might have slaughtered that, so I apologize. Sankalpa really is about that transformation. So instead of I will have a perfect conversation, your intent might be like, I will listen with compassion and be present. And ways to practice an intention could be creating an affirmation. Maybe you're writing it down or spending a few minutes to reflect on the event itself and how you want to feel during that event before that event happens. So creating a visualization exercise, again, having maybe affirmations at play or a mantra, sending that loving energy to that situation before you even ring the doorbell. It could be that you're reflecting in your journal and saying, writing down or saying out loud, like, today I will honor somebody else's journey. I will be present. I will be kind. So this is something that, we all forget, especially when we get triggered, right? And so I could say out of the three, the first thing to remember is to pause, because when you're able to pause, then you can remember, okay, one, two, and three. You can remember all of them. You can remember how to think. You can know if what you're about to say is necessary, if it's kind, if it's helpful, and then be that bridge, be that mirror to show other people how you would like to be treated as well. And so this has happened to me. I remember thinking, last time I spent Thanksgiving with my family, of practicing this and even hopping in situations to show and model what that looks like. And then other relatives started to catch on and then created this beautiful, loving environment versus one that, I'm triggered and then that triggers you and that triggers so and so. And then we're just triggered and eating and trying to get through, right? We want to actually thrive, not survive. So we want to move out of the trauma response into environments that create positive growth. There is such thing instead of PTSD is that positive growth. So we want to create environments that allow for us to be positive. So some 5 steps to really help with that mindfulness conversation is that grounding into yourself before you even interact, maybe taking some deep breaths, centering your energy, asking questions that are open-ended and allowing people to respond from their point of view versus how are you? What about what's been the highlight of your week or your year? Choosing more gentle redirects if the conversation does get a little, heavier, tense. Like, let's focus on bringing maybe more joy today and honor the moments. If silence is what's called for in the moment, that's okay. Silence creates space and allows for deeper reflection. And then lastly, I could say is expressing gratitude for the time you have or for the ability to connect with that person in that moment could be a way out of you maybe revealing a truth that you're not ready to reveal, or saying something that you are not ready to say yet. Maybe, I am so grateful for this time with you. Let's focus on things that are more positive. How about that? Or let's focus on how we can create this into a memorable experience, a glimmer, that's something that we can have and we can look back on and remember the warmth of this moment. So those are just some ways that you can reframe and redirect and create your own glimmers in life. The art of conversation, like I said, I think all of us were taught it at one point in some form or fashion, but pulling from modern science to ancient wisdom, I love weaving the dance between speaking and listening and showing how it can be something, but just like anything, it's a skill that we need to practice. We need to reflect on and figure out what works best for us. So again, in blending the beautiful marriage between what science can prove and what ancient wisdom has already known for thousands of years, for millennia, we really can create a path for connections that nourish both our relationships and souls this year. So I want you to, as you reflect on past gatherings, and you prepare for new ones, I want you to remember that words and presence are so powerful, and use them as tools to heal, to connect, to heal forward, I'll say, to connect and uplift those around you. Again, being that model to which you want to receive that same kind of love and support. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful Mindful Monday as we are into the holiday swing. I really hope that this particular episode resonated with you. If so, please like, share, subscribe, do all of the things. I appreciate you and I am grateful for our time together. Until next time, beautiful souls, have a great week and be present, be mindful. And I can't wait to hear about your beautiful points of connection during this holiday season. Bye.